What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reacting to your hottest NBA hot takes. Let's go. Super excited about this one. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Make sure you guys do hit that thumbs up button and subscribe here to the Sports Headline Show's YouTube channel. We're on our goal to hitting 2,000 subscribers here on the channel. Really appreciate all you guys' support recently. But as I said in the intro, I put out a tweet at Sean_DAVI saying, send me your hottest NBA hot takes. I'm going to be reacting to some in this video. I got about 10 or so marked out, and we're going to get to them. And let's start off with the first one here. From my guy George at George_Martin21. He says that the Mavs are going to win the Western Conference next season. And I can see the vision there. I think with just Luka being one of the most talented and supremely talented players in the NBA today, who might be my MVP. That video is going to drop later on today. Super excited about that video as well. But Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, they finally have kind of figured out that fit. And yes, there's a lot of heliocentric basketball going on, but they have great complementary role players. I might want to add a little bit more shooting in there, like outside of Kyrie and Luka. The consistency of their catch and shoot three-point shooting is a little bit, it leaves something to be desired there. But I can see the vision there. I think Dallas has one of the highest ceilings of any team in the NBA because they have Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving is a playoff riser, and they have really good complementary role players. I like this one. I could see a world where Dallas wins the West next season. Hell, my hot take heading into this season, I said this last season in March. I'll find the tweet, Sean, put it in here and post that my Western Conference Finals would have OKC in it. Now, granted, I had OKC facing the Lakers in my Western Conference Finals, but I kind of called OKC being this good last season before the playoffs even started. And yeah, I could very easily see this hot take coming back and be a really good one heading into next season. Next up, we got provide context or letting go on Twitter. Says Max Christie would be a rotational player on every NBA contender this season, but the Lakers. And I don't know how I feel about this all the way quite yet. The reason being, right, I could see it, but I think the thing with Max Christie and why he's not already that contender, rotation player, and maybe this is the point that letting go is getting at here, is that Max Christie is an inconsistent player right now. Yes, he is. But the reason why he isn't able to get out of said inconsistent play is because he does have a consistent role. There is nothing about Max Christie right now that's consistent. Does have consistent minutes, does have a consistent role. And when he is used in the role that makes the most sense for him, he is a NBA level rotation player. So maybe that's the point that Lango is getting at there. I think there are certain teams that maybe don't need him necessarily. But I think Max Christie is a 3-and-D 2 that is a 3-and-D 2 guard that's kind of reminds me a lot of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for Denver, who's a guy that can just hit spot up threes and is a really good defender. Max still has some ways to go on the defensive end of the floor, but the upside is there and it's glaring with Max Christie. I can get behind this one. I still think that there might be a couple other spots that wouldn't play Max, but I do understand the premise of this hot take, and I might even get behind it. Next up here, we have at BDrip1K. If the Spurs get Nikola Topic, something that I've been mocking recently, go check out my most recent mock draft 1.0. We're going to have another mock draft dropping in a week or so from now. If the Spurs get Nikola Topic or Rob Dillingham in the draft, they'll be a play-in team next season. I'm willing to go that far now. Victor Wembanyama is legitimately a freak. He has run away with the Rookie of the Year award. He's getting some people's Defensive Player of the Award. I can't get behind that. I think that's a bit of a stretch. Shout out Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis. There's some other guys I think are more deserving of the award. But I will say I love Nikola Topic. Even a Rob Dillingham, if the Spurs, let's say, fell a little bit further back in the lottery than they would like. I like Rob Dillingham too for the Spurs. I think what the Spurs need in this draft, they need a legitimate, and I'm saying Trey Jones isn't a point guard, but legitimate, upside from the point guard spot. And that's what both Nikola Topic and Rob Dillon can provide. And Nikola Topic's standpoint, like he is one of, if not the best playmaker in this draft class, while also being an elite paint touch guy. I really, really like this fit a lot. And I'm going to go, I might go a step further. The Spurs without one of those two, regardless, the Spurs as is going to be a play-in team next season. Whether or not they get those two players, one of those two guys or not, they are going to be a play-in team. All right. We got Drew Kakel or Kakel's Bagel _bagels on Twitter. He says the Hornets will make the first round of the playoffs next season as long as LaMelo is healthy for 60 games. And if you look at the state of the Western Conference, and maybe I should share my screen here. If you look at the state of the of the Eastern Conference, excuse me, and we look at teams heading into next year that can potentially be better or worse, right? We're talking plans. We're talking, or was it first round? Or was it play? Let me go back. First round of the playoffs. So let's at the very least, let's say top 8 seed, right? There is a possibility Cleveland blows it up depending on how their playoff scenario shapes out. New York should stick around. Boston's gonna stick around. Milwaukee's gonna stick around. Orlando, Indiana, hypothetically, are probably gonna stick around. Does Miami finally fall off a cliff next season? Philly should be around still. Chicago and Atlanta, I don't think are going to be around. I think they're kind of another, a year or two away. Hopefully, they're both going to go on rebuild starting next season. Brooklyn has a long way away, I think. Toronto's closed. Detroit and Washington need a minute. So if we're saying first round, if they are healthy, I think that's, I don't know. Quite frankly, I still think Charlotte probably still needs some work, just in terms of the roster build. And I actually think how they address this draft is going to be really, really pivotal as well. This draft and this free agency, more importantly, who they get in and hire as their next head coach. That's really going to sell me on whether or not this is a hot take or not, and whether or not I'm going to agree with it. Because if they get in just another C tier coach, I'm like a Steve Clifford in this case, or even like a low MB or maybe high level C tier coach like a Kenny Atkinson, like they were rumored to. I probably still say, I don't know. You have to convince me on your draft and how you actually play next season. Then I'll buy into it. But if there was ever a team that needed to just take the high upside pick on a coach, it is the Charlotte Hornets. That's a way you could get me to believe with this team. I can see it. I see the vision there. Michael Brummagin at M Brummagin on Twitter says, not Kyrie, not Steph, not Jordan, not Kobe, but LeBron James is the most skilled player of all time. Folks, limit the talk of skill to just handles and shooting, but skill encompasses the entire game at both ends, and LeBron's by far the best and most versatile at both ends. Well, what I think you're saying is just that LeBron's the greatest player of all time, right? But like, and I'm not trying to downplay LeBron being the most skilled player ever. But yes, right. Honestly, you might be talking about, you might have a point in terms of why skill is just kind of equated down to handles and shooting. But I think that's because we look at skill and we kind of talk about more from an offensive lens, right? As it being, hey, look, can you the handles? Yes, but the ability your ability to make shots, your ability as a playmaker, right? And things like that. I think Luka is going to very quickly kind of like raise up in the ranking of most talent. Luka Doncic might already be the most talented on-ball player of all time. And I don't think that's a hot take. If it is, let me know in the comments down below. But you do typically hear guys like Kyrie being listed as the most talented player of all time, and with good reason. I think this is a hot take. LeBron James is the greatest player of all time, in my opinion. And I think if this is what the comment was kind of trying to get off, and I kind of feel like that's really what they're wanting to say here, then I would absolutely agree with you. But skill, and I'm not knocking LeBron's skill. I think LeBron is obviously a highly skilled player. I think there are still more players that are more like Kevin Durant is a more skilled player than LeBron James, right? KD has a better handle, KD's a better shot maker, stuff like that. So maybe I'm beating into your point, Michael, but LeBron James is the greatest player of all time. That doesn't mean necessarily he's the most skilled player of all time. That is a really, really good one, though. Speaking of LeBron, let's stay on LeBron. Why don't we? So next one here, we got at Woke But Broke 2. 2018 LeBron is the best offensive peak of any player for any single season. You have 2018 Bron, you have 2013 Bron, you have 91 Mike, you have 89 Mike, you have 06, 07 Kobe. There's a bunch of different ones here, right? I will say this, right? Obviously, I was not alive for MJ. 2018 LeBron. And I think I'm gonna be more. I think this comments be more specific. If the playoff run, like 2018 Braun during the regular season was, yes, legitimately dominant. That I thought he should have won the MVP last season. He was my vote for MVP personally. But the playoff run is kind of why we remember that LeBron and kind of, stamp that as peak LeBron, if you will, at times, either that one or 2013. So I'm going to one up. I think in terms of what if 82 game regular season, you got to win 16 games to the playoffs. So we'll just round up and add a couple more games. So for a 100 game, like full body of work, I lean more towards the 2013 season for Bron. That's when he was at his best athletically. That was his athletic peak 2013 season. He won his MVP, his fourth and unfortunately final MVP. He won it that season. And then you had the playoff run where he was just absolutely, sensational. And like for a full body of work, that is his best season. You could go with that one, or probably like again 89 Michael Jordan or 91 Michael Jordan. So I'm gonna say this is a hot take, but to counter that own point, I think that the playoff run from Bron in 18 is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, playoff run of all time. Unfortunately, they end up in a championship because that Cavs team was just super undermanned and outmatched. But I mean, just the memories that you got in that playoff series, man. How LeBron was legitimately just insane. Yeah, like he demoralized franchises in that playoff run. If it wasn't for KD, Steph, Clay, the greatest team of all time, that Cavs team, I think personally that they beat Houston in the finals that season. But that's just me, and we'll go from there. At Scam Newton 00, okay. A healthy Knicks team would be in the conference finals to take the Celtics to 7. This Knicks team is so fun, man. Jalen Brunson is making a real argument to be on my All-NBA team. I have a hard time keeping him off right now, if I'm being completely honest with you. They have just such a great complementary group of role players. Dante DiVincenzo is so freaking good. I think he doesn't get enough credit for how good he is as a player. Josh Hart, the Iron Man, he plays all the minutes for them. He does so many different things for that New York Knicks squad. Tibbs is having a really good year. OG Anunoby, when he's been there, he's been an impact, and he just positively impacts winning. They have a bunch of guys that can score the ball, and then you add Julius Randle back to that team. They I think come playoff time, we're gonna see them probably miss out and really see them how the effects of not having Julius Randle just as a second legitimate scoring option will be. But they got Mitchell Robinson back. They have Isaiah Hartenstein. Obviously, Miles Deuce McBride, shout out Deuce, Cincinnati legend. It's really stepped up into his role really, really nicely. I don't think this is a hot take. I think that Celtics team is vulnerable. And I think, I guess I did miss a comment. This actually lends into my next one here. I think the Celtics team is vulnerable. I think that their peak is so freaking good, right? Like when they're playing their best brand of basketball, I think there's only one team in the league that can beat them in a 7-game series, and that is the team in Denver. But Boston, man, they just have a level of, can they do this every night? That's a legitimate question with the Boston Celtics. Can they do this every single night? Well, there's going to be nights where Jason Tatum's just going to chuck up inefficient mid-range jumpers, and instead of realizing, dog, I'm bigger, faster, stronger than 95% of the league, let me just put my head down and get to the rim every single time. So I think New York would match up really, really nicely with the Celtics, and I think New York could take them to 7 games if they're fully healthy. Tony Vega says, the Celtics lose in the first round. I think this is a hot take for sure. As much as I do think that they're, not on fraud watch, but I do think they could get upset by somebody. And if I did say fraud watch earlier, I do apologize. Maybe that's not the right word that I wanted to use there. But if we look back at the standings here, right, going back to the East, if I am Boston, yes, I am. First off, I'm not even really excited about any of these matchups for an 8 seed. If Philly loses to Miami, you have to worry about Embiid and Maxey. Miami, you have the monkey on your back, if you will, where, oh man, we got them dudes again. We get them this time in round 1. So I don't think they lose in round 1. I just think they are so good where, again, I don't know if one of those teams are going to beat Boston. as good as Miami, I mean, as good as like Miami was last season in the playoffs, I don't think this Miami team can really replicate what they did last season in the playoffs. And Philly, I just don't know if Philly has enough. And I don't know if I can trust Philly's health to be able to like survive and get them through a 7-game series against Boston. So I'm going to say this is a hot take. And I don't think Boston loses anytime sooner than the first round. Last one, Badger at PB_Badger says the league sabotaged Kobe's chances of getting a 6th ring. And if Jim Buss rehired Phil Jackson instead of hiring Mike D'Antoni, Kobe wouldn't have gotten hurt. I agree. I think that Lakers team coming off of a championship. No, this wasn't coming off a championship. This would have been coming off the loss to Dallas. But obviously the league vetoes the Chris Paul deal that would have sent Pau Gasol out to Chris Paul for Chris Paul. I think it was Paul and Lamar Odom and something along those lines for Chris Paul. Maybe Andrew Bynum too, but details get a bit blurry. And for one, just like the locker room vibe gets immediately thrown off when you tell a guy, hey, look, we're going to trade you. And it's literally done. The deal is done. And the only reason why you're ending up on a team still, on the current team you're on, is because the league said, hey, no, we're not allowing this deal to happen. And that does kind of lead to like a domino effect, if you will, right? Because of that, the locker room is a little bit more fractured. Because of that, for some dumb reason, the Lakers do not rehire Phil Jackson, who actually said, hey, look, I want to come back for one more season. They don't do that. They go, I think once it was Mike Brown, right? Mike Brown. And then it was the disaster of Mike Brown. And then they go out, hire Mike D'Antoni. And that system just didn't work. Kobe had to overexalt himself to get that team to the playoffs, which he did, but it ultimately led to in tearing his Achilles. And that was kind of the end of Kobe's prime from there, because that season from Kobe was so freaking special. And he really laid it all out there on the line. So, yeah, I agree. I think if the Lakers, if that trade goes through, I think Phil probably still stays. I think the locker room is the vibe is still, it's going to take some time to get adjusted to each other, obviously. But I don't think there is a fracture within the locker room. And I don't think Kobe over pushes himself, if you will. And I don't think Kobe gets hurt. And we see Chris Paul in a Lakers jersey. And the Lakers, I don't know if they cut down banner number 17 at the time, and Kobe wins number 6. But because I do just think, man, that LeBron team was so freaking good. But I do know the Lakers would have a legitimate shot. And maybe we actually would have gotten finally that inevitable, what felt inevitable, rather, matchup from LeBron and Kobe in Kobe's final days as a legit superstar still. So that would have been really, really fun. Curse you, NBA, for robbing us of that opportunity. But thank you guys so much for tuning in here to this episode of the Sports Headline Show. If you guys are new, please make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe here to the channel for more great content. More great content on the way, guys. Having a draft podcast with my buddy Eugene. It's going to drop tomorrow. We talk all about this year's draft class and more. I'm going to be previewing the Dallas versus Clippers matchup coming out on Wednesday, along with a bunch of great X's and O's content, including the debut of my X's and O's series, Basketball Sickos. That episode drops on Thursday. So make sure you guys keep an eye out on that one, and make sure you guys hit the thumbs up button, post notification bell as well, so you don't miss a video. The notifications pop right to your phone. Thank you guys so much for watching. Till next time, everybody. See ya. Stay safe. Peace out.